Hey everyone, welcome back to Creepshow, your go-to channel for the darkest, most chilling true crime stories. Tonight, we're diving into a topic that's as tragic as it is terrifying. While most of us think of pizza delivery as a harmless job, it can actually be incredibly dangerous. From deadly setups to horrific murders, we've gathered 10 brutal cases that highlight the very real risks faced by pizza delivery drivers. So grab your popcorn if you dare, and let's get into the top 10 most horrifying murders of pizza delivery drivers. Every one of us has experienced evenings when we simply want to stay in and have our favorite pizzas brought right to our front door. However, the job of a pizza delivery driver may be quite hazardous because of the nature of the job. There were at least 20 people who were shot at while working as pizza delivery drivers in the United States in 2014. This profession is frequently considered to be among the most dangerous vocations in the country. Beginning in 2015 and continuing through 2019, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that there were 334 delivery drivers who lost their life while hauling food and merchandise. Although transportation accidents were the leading cause of death, over 17% of fatalities were the result of intentional injuries sustained in the course of a homicide, robbery, or assault. Oh my goodness. It is common knowledge that pizza delivery drivers are obvious targets for robberies, yet there are instances in which these robberies also result in homicides. 10 pizza delivery drivers have been brutally murdered, and here they are. Number 10. Bobby Jenkins, 2019. Bobby Jenkins, who was 30 years old at the time, was killed after delivering a pizza for Stacy's Pizza in Philadelphia in the year 2019. Due to the fact that the delivery destination was an empty property that was still in the process of being constructed, the authorities suspect that Jenkins was led to the area as a trap. During the time that they were waiting for Jenkins to arrive, the suspects entered the vacant house through the rear entrance and were armed. The body of the deceased individual was discovered inside the empty house, where he had been shot in the chest and had been robbed of a number of belongings that were not identified. Just a few days before to Jenkins, another pizza delivery driver in the same location was robbed. However, the second driver did not sustain any injuries throughout the incident. Jenkins had been working as a pizza delivery driver in order to gain additional money so that he could start his own company. Number 9. Khaled Heeba, 2020. After fleeing the conflict in Syria to Egypt 7 years ago, Khaled Heeba and his family eventually made their way to the United States of America approximately 3 years ago. During the month of February in the year 2020, he was delivering pizzas at Vizzini's Pizza in Baltimore, where he was employed while he was murdered. During the course of his delivery trip, Khaled came into a distressing circumstance. Immediately, he leaped out of his vehicle and took out after the one who was causing the commotion. However, the individual pulled out a revolver and immediately put an end to his life. It was only a few blocks away from both his place of employment and his residence when the shooting took place, right before his Friday prayer. His family referred to him as a compassionate and hard-working individual, but in the end, it was his large heart that proved to be the cause of his death. Unfortunately for Khaled's family, his brother, who lives in Germany, was unable to be with them during this time because of the travel ban that applies to Syrians. This made the situation even more difficult for his family. Number 8. Stephanie Brainerd, 2019. During the time that Stephanie Brainerd was being murdered in her vehicle, she was delivering a pizza to Chesapeake's Marina Point for delivery. The authorities discovered that the apartment she was delivering to was empty, which led them to conclude that her murder was part of a plot to have her killed. The bullets were heard by a law enforcement officer who was present at the scene, and he observed the suspects fleeing in a black SUV. Although the police pursued the vehicle that was fleeing, one of the suspects managed to escape from the moving vehicle. The law enforcement officer continued to chase the vehicle and ultimately apprehended the 2 further perpetrators. 3 individuals, Najeh Ravenel, who is 19 years old, Antonio Britton, who is 18 years old, and Samia Davidson, who is 20 years old, have been charged with committing robbery, conspiracy to commit a robbery, and using a firearm in the commission of a felony conviction. After further investigation, the 3 individuals were charged with murder in the first degree. Number 7. Joshua Ungersma, 2020. On August 31st, 2020, a young man named Alberto Van Meter, who was just 19 years old at the time, made an attempt to rob Domino's delivery driver Joshua Ungersma. However, Ungersma shot and killed the young man. In response to the sound of gunfire coming from outside his residence, a guy raced out to assist the delivery driver in Lafayette, Indiana. Although the man and his roommate made a call to the authorities, it was already too late for Ungersma to be saved. Jalen Billups, who was 17 years old at the time, walked from across the street and shot Ungersma, causing him to die in the street. This occurred immediately after the authorities were notified. It was when she was with Van Meter that she was taken into custody at the scene and charged with the murder of Ungersma. After the investigators discovered that Billups had the pizza delivered to a place that was vacant, she was also charged with conspiring to commit armed robbery. As a result of the fact that anyone who is killed in the conduct of a felony can be prosecuted with the death of that person as well, she is also facing charges of murder in connection with Van Meter. Number 6. David Shelton, 2019. Within the year 2019, David Shelton, who was 30 years old and from Portage, Indiana, was working as a delivery driver for Luigi's Pizza when he was fatally murdered. Within a span of 1 month, he went on to become the second delivery man to be murdered by gunfire in Glen Park. Shelton was shot by the suspects while they were in the midst of robbing him. 2 individuals from Gary, Terriante Flournoy, and Keontae Wright were taken into custody and charged with attempted robbery, conspiracy to try robbery, and murder. As a convicted felon, Flournoy was also indicted for possessing a firearm, which included a firearm. It was determined that Flournoy's mother was the owner of one of the phone numbers that was used to call Luigi's Pizza. Both Flournoy and his mother were questioned by the authorities, and Flournoy's mother disclosed to them that she had been informed about the murder through social media. During the course of the interrogation, he yelled at his mother, telling her, "You don't have to answer that, and don't snitch on me." Additionally, Wright and his girlfriend were taken into custody as a result of the interrogation. Although she initially stated that she was at work at the time of the murder, his girlfriend eventually revealed that she was aware that the heist was being planned. Number 5. John Sullivan, 2014. In the year 2014, John Sullivan, who was 49 years old at the time, was employed as a pizza delivery driver on the west side of Indianapolis. Derek Romano and Jeremiah Roberts were responsible for Sullivan's killing by beating him to death while he was on a delivery route. Following the fact that they had killed him, they took his vehicle and proceeded to Wyoming, where they were eventually apprehended. On the next day, the body of Sullivan was discovered in the basement of the residence that Romano and Roberts had been residing in. The Wabash Valley Correctional Facility was the location where the 2 guys were taken after being charged with murder. Romano murdered his partner in crime while he was incarcerated, which was 6 years after he had already slain Sullivan. Roberts was discovered in his cell unresponsive, and he was pronounced dead prior to his arrival at the hospital. Number 4. Richel Nova, 2010. During the month of September in 2010, Richel Nova was killed while delivering pizzas in the city of Boston. Nova was enticed to a deserted house where he was stabbed 16 times. The suspects also stole 2 pizzas, chicken wings, and a bottle of Pepsi, in addition to the about $140 in cash that he was carrying at the time. Nova was a proud father of 4 children, and in order to contribute financially to the education of his children, he worked as a pizza delivery man. In addition to being sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of release, Alexander Gallat and Michelle St. Jean were each charged with murder. In addition, Yamile Matherin, Gallat's girlfriend, was found guilty of manslaughter and received a sentence of at least 17 years in jail without the possibility of parole. As part of her sentence for armed robbery, she will also be required to serve a probationary period of 3 years. Number 3. Najeh Masaeid, 2014. A grandpa named Najeh Masaeid, who was 63 years old, worked as a pizza delivery driver for Domino's in the Birmingham, Alabama neighborhood. It was discovered that he had passed away in a hallway of the Summit condominiums in December of 2014. He had been delivering pizza to the district at the time. Over the course of 15 years, Masaeid had been employed by the pizza restaurant. 2 weeks after Masaeid's body was discovered, Corey Arrington, then 17 years old, was taken into custody and charged with the murder of Masaeid. The authorities thought that the murder was committed with the intention of committing a robbery. However, Masaeid's co-workers stated that he most likely had only approximately $20 on him at the time of the murder. An additional allegation of robbery was brought against Arrington for an event that occurred at the same apartment complex in the past. Number 3. Giorgio Gallara and Jeremy Giordano, 1997. In the year 1997, Giorgio Gallara and Jeremy Giordano were violently killed while they were bringing a couple of cheese pizzas to a house in New Jersey that was uninhabited. The two were enticed to the place where they were going to be shot and robbed, and they both worked for Tony's Pizza at the time. Both Thomas Koskovich and Jason Vreeland, the two individuals under suspicion, had previously committed a robbery at an outdoor sports store, during which they took a number of firearms. In an effort to lure their victims, they escaped to a house that had been abandoned and placed an order for pizzas. This is the location where they murdered Gallara and Giordano for the sole purpose of experiencing what it would be like to kill another person. This is the reason why the murders are referred to as the thrill killings. The following day, Koskovich and Vreeland were taken into custody and ultimately charged with murder. Number 1. Brian Wells, 2003. An intricate plan that comprised a bank robbery, a scavenger hunt, and a handmade explosive device was responsible for Brian Wells's death. This scheme was part of a larger conspiracy. In the city of Erie, Pennsylvania, Wells worked as a pizza delivery driver for Mamma Mia's Pizzeria restaurant. The fact that he was a willing participant in the bank heist is a widely held belief, yet it is highly probable that he was unaware that he would be killed as a result of his involvement in the crime. At the address of a transmitting tower belonging to a local television station, Wells brought 2 pizzas to be delivered. The authorities are unsure whether or not he was aware that the device was real, despite the fact that a collar bomb was placed around his neck at the spot. As part of a 9-page treasure hunt that was supplied to him, he was then given instructions to enter a PNC bank with a note demanding $250,000. The search would ultimately result in the discovery of keys that would make the device less explosive and ultimately detonate it. The police took him into custody approximately 15 minutes after he had left the bank with a sum that was significantly lower than what he had asked. They then left him sitting on the ground in a parking lot. A hole was formed in Wells's chest as a result of the explosion of the device, which ultimately resulted in his death before the bomb squad could arrive at the scene. Thanks for watching this unsettling episode of Creepshow. If you found this video as chilling as we did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more spine-tingling stories. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update on our latest true crime tales. And remember, next time you order a pizza, spare a thought for the brave drivers out there. Stay safe, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next episode.